everyone. So today we are here to discuss some tips and tricks to clear your ACCA AFM exam. These tips will not be only useful for your AFM exam but could be helpful to crack the other exams of ACCA as well. So let's stay tuned in. So first tip to clear your ACCA exam is of course to manage the time effectively. Many students I have seen, they are very well versed, they know the subject, but they aren't able to clear the paper. Why? Because they weren't able to manage the time during the exam. So first thing we need to do is to manage the time effectively. And how can we do that? First of all, we need to utilize the reading and planning time. So you already know that for all the professional papers, except for the SBL exam, you're given 15 minutes for reading. So you need to utilize that 15 minutes very efficiently so that you can write the exam on time. So during that 15 minutes, for every question, what you need to do is you need to see what are the requirements. So you need to follow this procedure. You firstly read the requirements of the exam. See what the question is asking you to do. Then, of course, read the exhibits. And accordingly you can plan the exam in your mind. You know what is the question asking. Let's say if the question is asking you to calculate the NPV, then of course in the exhibits you will be locating the figures so that you can locate, like you can see how to calculate the NPV figure, right? So you need to utilize your reading time effectively. Then the second tip is, of course, to allocate the time to answer the requirements. Of course, we have a limited time. We have 3 hours to complete this particular subject. So for every mark, you need to allocate this 1.8 minutes. So for every mark, you take into consideration that you need to allocate 1.8 minutes. Of course, specifically for your AFM exam, you will be asked 3 questions in your paper. First question is of course of 50 marks and another 2 questions are for 25 marks each. So what you need to do is make sure you're able to complete your 50 marks in your 90 minutes given. Try to complete your 25 marks question in 40 minutes. And likewise. And lastly, try to avoid repetition. Do not waste your time in repeating every topic. Try to avoid the repetition part. Repetition will not fetch you any mark, so do not repeat. The second thing you need to do is follow the mindset of examiner. Before sitting into the exam, you need to see, you need to analyze what your examiner wants from you. So what you need to do is make sure that your calculations are traceable for the examiner. Make sure your whatever formula you are using, you are applying it in the Excel only. If the examiner asks you to calculate NPV, so to calculate NPV, you have taken the sales figures, variable cost figures. If the method applied to calculate the sale figure is correct, but there is some calculation error to calculate that sale figure, then it is acceptable. The marks will be rewarded by the examiner in the exam. So try to make sure that the method is correct. You know the methodology. You know the concept. So marks will be awarded even if your calculation is wrong, but if the method is correct, the concept is correct, the marks will be awarded. But you're not supposed to copy the text simply from your requirement section or from your question section. It will not fetch you any marks. For AFM paper, this is very important that you need to be very well versed with the spreadsheet part. I have seen many students calculating everything in the calculator and then putting the figures into the Excel. That is very wrong approach. That is costing you the time plus a larger effort. So try not to do that in the exam. AFM paper is very lengthy. It involves huge calculations. If you are doing everything on the calculator and then transferring the figures to the Excel, that is not approachable. It's not viable for your AFM exam. So try to use all the formulas that your ACCA has suggested to use for your exam paper. This will save your time, and this will help you to reduce the burden of extra making sure that the figure you have copied is correct. Then, of course, what else you need to do is you need to plan the paper. Before you start writing, in your 15 minutes section, in your 15 minutes window, you need to plan the paper. You need to see what questions you need to do. Even you can use your Word file. In the exam, of course, you'll be given the word processing file. You can use that word processing to write the short notes, like whatever you are going to do in that particular question, you can write the short note. So firstly, what you need to do is, if you see the requirements tab, just copy all the given requirements in your short note, in your Word file. Right? And you can write just a short note or a rough sketch of how you're going to attempt a particular question. But make sure you erase it before you submit the exam. Right? Else, what you can do is, of course, you have to follow the format. If the question asks you to prepare the report, the question asks you to write a report to the managing director, whatever format the question asks you to prepare, of course you have to prepare the if you also have to attempt the question in that given format. Then, of course, you need to focus for AFM paper specifically. Try, before preparing, when you are preparing for your paper, try to focus on the straightforward topics, as in the international investment appraisal. This will be asked in the exam no matter what. In any form, this can be asked. So you can easily secure your 20 to 25 marks of the paper if you know how to calculate international NPV, if you know how to convert your cash flows, if you know how to introduce inflation, if you know working capital requirements adjustment, if you know the basic concepts, then you will be able, if you know the basic international investment appraisal concepts, you will be able to easily secure 20 to 25 marks of the paper. So never lose those marks. Never skip the calculation of your cash flows in the exam. Then, of course, you need to do cost of capital. Cost of capital is very important. For cost of capital, all those who have already done the FM paper, the cost of capital was difficult part in the FM paper, but it is very easy for A or AFM paper. So cost of capital will be incorporated in a long NPV question. So it will be incorporated somewhere in the paper, and it is a very easy concept. So try not to leave that particular concept. Lastly, risk management. Of course, you'll be asked a question about the concepts, scholars, options. These are very easy questions, just require few concepts which you need to be well versed with, and you can easily attempt this question. Next is, do not forget to do the technical articles. Why technical articles are important? Actually, there are some topics in your AFM paper which are not in your textbook, like topics such as YTM, yield to maturity, the security tranches. These topics are not in your textbook. So what you can do is either ask your tutor to explain you these topics, or you need to read the technical articles before appearing for the exam, because these are very much examinable in the exam. And lastly, practice, practice, practice. ACCA AFM exam is all about practice. You can crack. I have seen students scoring the global ranks, how they are able to do it, just because they are practicing a lot. Try to do as many questions as many times as you can. Try to do the mocks, try to utilize your ACCA practice platform. This will help you to gather a confidence, plus of course you will be brushing up your concepts once you attempt to do the questions. So all these tips will help you to clear your ACCA AFM exam. Thank you so much.